Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Move, Crush, Count. I am your host, Scott Joseph. Today's episode is brought to you by J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. Do me a favor, visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can see how their innovative approach will help you move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. Our guest today is Dustin Bogle. He's a sales expert. He's an entrepreneur. He has spent the last 15 years perfecting his fortune follow-up system to help businesses harve more sales from their existing leads. So Dustin's got a very unique approach. It focuses on service and the way he likes to put it, so you don't have to feel like a slimy salesperson. And more importantly, you do this without sacrificing the results you're going to drive. So in this episode, Dustin and I, we're going to explore this fortune follow-up system of his, and we're going to uncover the root of all team problems and more importantly, how to fix them. So Dustin's worked with businesses across a lot of different industries. He empowers them. He solves their team problems, their team dynamics, and their performance. So join us as we dive into Dustin's expertise when it comes to sales, teamwork, how to implement his proven strategies in your own business. Let's welcome Dustin.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. Pleasure to be on the show, and definitely want to add as much value as I can to your listeners. So my goal is to make this the most shared episode that you have. So let's do this, man. Let's make some magic happen.
I already like you. But I got to tell you, I want to dive right in, but before we do, when we were discussing, let's possibly getting you on the show, I told you this in one of my messages. You had me at the pro wrestling comment. Once you said that you were a fan, now were you actually in wrestling?
I absolutely was. So I know we'll get into this later. My new book that's dropping Friday, Reinforced. Yep. So I just flip into it to show you me with long hair in the ring with a guy who's now signed by the WWE. His name's Cesaro, but essentially I wrestled some of those old 80s superstars. If you watched it back then, like Marty Jannetty and Tito Santana. And then definitely wrestled some of the people who at my time, that in my era, were on the independent scene, but went on to get big contracts with the biggest well-known companies, and they're people you watch on Monday Night Raw right now. So worked with the whole gamut, man, and it was a lot of fun. And it's something that I cherish very much because I did it for 10 years in my young adulthood.
Me and my brother always used to, first off, we've been watching pro wrestling since, I don't know, I'd say 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. Followed it all the way through. Now I haven't watched it here lately, but I did watch it all the way through the Stone Cold and the Rock era, and then when they finally merged, I watched it all the way through that when they were battling WCW or whatever it was before they merged that or bought them out. So I love it. I love all the trash talk. To me, that's the best part of the whole thing. Is just the trash talk and the mic skills. So we're going to test your mic skills today, then, I guess. So we'll bring you in. Let's dive in. All right. So share with the audience a little bit about your background. How did you come up with this fortune follow-up system?
Yeah. So for those that don't know me, I was an overweight teenager. I was weighing 260 pounds. Then a friend invited me to the gym, the same friend that got me into becoming a professional wrestler. And I lost 60 pounds of body fat. And so I had visible abs, and I was really confident with who I saw in the mirror. And I said, wow, I want to get this gift to other people because it's changed my life. And that's what made me want to go and become a certified trainer, and chose that as my career path. Fast forward, after almost 10 years of doing it, I decided to open my own gym. And then you fast forward a little bit more, and I ended up going a little nuts. And I actually kind of broke my systems and myself by going and opening 6 gyms over 6 years. And so very aggressive, very foot to the gas pedal. But where I came up with the fortune follow-up system was when I would do my outreach and my calls and call people who expressed interest in the program. I love that part. I love connecting with strangers and getting them to understand that investing in their health, how it will translate into their life, because you can see that this happens in a lot of exchanges in business. they think it's very much, I pay you money and I get X and then we're done with it. It's very transactional. And I wanted them to see like, oh my God, are you kidding? You're going to be more confident. You're going to start talking to yourself a lot more kindly in the, in the mirror when you see yourself. Your kids are going to see what you're doing and follow you. And so you're leading them in your actions. Like there's just so many things. I go on and on. And so that's where I really got excited and I decided to put it into a system. And I asked myself, what exactly do I do that gets me to sell 9 out of 10 people to fitness, which is a hard thing to sell. People don't want to buy fitness. Yep. They want to buy cookies and concert tickets, but I was able to do it.
We would buy the results, Dustin. We would buy the results if there was a pill. Yes. But to actually do the work's a little tougher sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but that's where it came from.
So I have a question. You said you bought 6 gyms, and what was the period of time again?
I know it was short. 6 years, so it was like 2013 to 2017 was kind of the time.
So almost a gym a year, and I'm sure. Yep. So, at what point did you develop this system with the follow up? Was it on the first one, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I've got something here. I can now just multiply this and do it," or explain that process to us.
It exactly was, because everyone tells you, get your systems, and so there was a gap and a gain when I expanded. So the gain was more locations, more team members, more lives affected, all good things. And I also sat down and I structured out my coaching process of how I run a session and my sales process of how I follow up. But there was a massive gap, and it's what forced me to close 2 locations. And that was that I didn't have a system or a understanding of the importance of leadership. And so what I didn't understand at that first location is that I was the leader. I just thought it was me showing up and running my business. And if I document what I do, I could just teach it. But what happens when I'm no longer there and I'm no longer present, right? A leader needs to be present. Somebody that the buck stops with them. They're Dustin's, right-hand man or extension. And I didn't develop that. And that's what really made that whole business kind of come crumbling down. Obviously, I was able to save and rebuild multiple of those locations, but I didn't know until I got to 6 how much of a mess I had made for myself.
Well, I always say every process is a great process until business picks up. And so the easiest way to become more efficient, right, and to improve processes and improve productivity, I shouldn't say the easiest, the best way to do it is increase sales, because you start putting stress on your systems and your processes. You find a good business leader, right, eventually finds a way to improve all that. And then when things slow down, you've got more time to figure out new to grow and all the other fun things that come with it. But I was curious on that. So I'm glad that you did that, because so when you were able to add those 6, you're probably buying gyms that didn't have the same process in terms of the sales follow-up and stuff like that. What were you able to see in terms of the pickup? And I'm going to ask you for a case study later on this that has nothing to do with your own gyms, but I'm curious with your own gyms, what type of sales pickup did you see initially once you started putting in that process, that follow-up system?
Yeah. So just to be clear, I didn't buy gyms. I was opening them from scratch following my grand opening process. So it was boot camp and personal training. And so that's what made me feel like I had lightning in a bottle, because I had really developed a grand opening plan that would have me launch with 200 boot camp members paying $150 a month. And I was like, oh man, this is like taking candy from a baby. Let's go to the next city, sign a lease, and rinse and repeat. But that was me being short-term minded. And it's also fun. Like the opening stage is fun. You're the new thing in town. Everybody wants to come hang you out. Like where you get really, put through the ringer is being in business 5, 10, 20 years. Now you got to see your staying power, not your just launch power. And so, essentially that Fortune follow-up system was used in the grand opening to get noise in the market, to tell everybody we're here, come check us out. Right. But then it was also used to continue to grow the business from that point forward. So yeah, essentially what it is it's, statistically, when we get on the phone with somebody, we're closing 73% of sales. And that is a number that we've been able to continue to have as an average through the years. And essentially what it is that, yeah, most people
Yep.
are sleeping on many leads and sales that are already existing in their database. So it's a matter of not only chasing new sales, but reactivating people in your database that you spend a lot of marketing dollars on, and doing the combination of both is where you're going to really see the most sales come from. I can go into it more detail if you want, Scott, but that's like the high level overview.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, because, you know, we do our leadership retreats, and ultimately everyone wants more conquest, more new business. You know, they want to increase their retention and all this stuff. And so there's always a focus somewhat on marketing,
Yes.
depending on the relevant topics at the time that we're doing the event. But always, to exactly what you just said, there's always a comment at some point throughout the leadership retreat where we will talk about, wow, I've already got enough leads. My problem isn't getting more. My problem is doing more with the leads I have.
Conversion. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about here. So, all right. So how do you describe this follow-up system to someone who's never heard it before? Explain it to us.
And there's three main systems within the main system. So the first process is what we call 5x2. And so essentially in the first 5 days, someone opts in, you must reach out to them twice a day in a different medium. So it could be text, phone call, email, Facebook DM, but every day you're reaching out twice. And that can sound aggressive to a lot of people. But if you're in sales, you know that's not aggressive.
No.
That's how much you need,
right.
because in today's world, it's the most noisy it's ever been. On all of our phones, we're getting rings, dings, zings, and bings, and everything is just jumping out at you, needing your attention. So you need to be the noisiest on their phone. And so the salespeople that do the most outreach win the business. So in the first 5 days they opt in, we need 2 reach outs a day. And that is because they're the hottest to buy. And also I'd say a mini component within that is speed to lead. That if you can get to them within 5 minutes of them opting in, that is critical, because guess what? When someone's in pain, they just Google it and they just start dialing phone numbers top to bottom. And the first person to pick up or call them back is often going to be the one to win the business. And I'll tell you, I know that from experience. We're getting a pool here. They're actually like 70% done with it. The first 3 pool people I called, no pickup and no callback to this day. And so here I was calling to give them a 6-figure job, and they weren't picking up the phone. So it blew my mind. I'm like, these guys need the Fortune follow-up system. The 4th person was doing 1-week cycles of communication. So if we talked on Monday and I emailed him, he would reply the next Monday, and I would reply to him within 20 minutes. And then he'd call the next Monday. We were working in 1-week cycles. And I was like, if this is a preview of how you're going to be on the job, so I don't want to work with you just because of how slow you're responding. The 5th guy, I can be there this afternoon. I'm going to measure your whole yard out, and I want to hear what you want. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to pick the perfect materials based on how you explain you want this thing to look. And 2 days later, he said, can you come to my office? I want to show you. We've put together a 3D mock-up, and I'd like you to come to my office and see it. I walk in, he hands me a water bottle. He hands me a granola bar. Same to my wife. Sits us down, 80-inch television. He plays a YouTube video. It's only like 30 seconds, but it was a full 3D spin around of a mock-up of what our yard would look like with a pool and outdoor living. And he just completely brought my vision to life. And he's like, you're here with me live. We can do live tweaks on it if you want, or do you like it how it is? Who do you think out of those 5 got the business, right? And so it's pretty easy to tell.
what a nice progressive test close too that he threw in there. You know, you're here right now. We can tweak this, or do you like it the way it is? So it's you're gonna know.
Yep, exactly. I love
that. But you know what you're talking about here applies to any industry, and I'm pretty impressed with the fact, because there's a lot of sophisticated businesses who will preach, then we follow up, but it's not necessarily with these. It's not as specific as what you just mentioned. The 2 on any channel per day up until this point, and then so on. I'm curious, how were you able, what did you do to hold people accountable to that? Because I think
So
that's
number
part of
one,
the issue with a sales
yeah,
process, right? Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, this is even just part one. And we got even two more I'm going to share with you. But essentially, this one, you could either A, set it up as an automation, and preferably you have it set up so that when they respond to one of them, it triggers that do not move forward to the rest of the automation. Because obviously they're going to keep getting texts and annoyed that why you
Yep.
keep texting, I already replied. So that's option one. Option two is, in my opinion, and this is what most most businesses should have, is a dedicated lead nurturer. It is a very integral part of your business. You got marketing that brings in the leads. The lead nurturer should be its own role. Then there's
Yep.
fulfillment or sales and fulfillment. And that's kind of how we all like help out and be a high performing team. And the beauty is, you might think like, is there enough work? Do I got enough leads to give them a job? But then there's onboarding and nurturing people who do buy. And so what if you call somebody, what if they do feedback calls 90 days into buying and saying, how's everything going? Do you got any feedback? Do you have any referrals you could send our way? They can also nurture customers, clients, in addition to brand new business. And that's their whole job. You can call them a customer success agent, whatever you want to label it. But yeah, that's how we do it. Is either it's manually done and someone has only eyes on this. When it's kind of Frankenstein together with other positions, it doesn't go well, or you can automate it. Those are two ways that you can execute on it. Absolutely.
Which way did you see work best, or did you do any type of hybrid version of the two?
That's we did a hybrid. So we do first message gets auto sent, and then the rest is manually sent, because when we automate things, again, depending on your tool, it might not be able to go to a specific time of day. We need it on the time that our people are working. And so we want that outbound messaging so that it can be there to receive it. So yeah, that's essentially the route we went, was hybrid. That one is automated and then the rest is manually done. From what we've seen, if they can, really execute on this, it doesn't even go to the 5 days. They get a hold of them on day 1, 2, or 3. And so that is a sign that like more volume is the answer to get a hold of these people. And also, make it unique. Every time we reach out, we do a different spin. We're not just like, hey, I'm following up. Hey, I'm following up. Hey, I want to reach out one more time.
I wanted to check in.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
put a different spin on it. Hey, like if I'm reaching out for fitness, hey, we got your expression of interest. By the way, what's your number one fitness goal? So I am following up, but I'm prompting you with a question. And so that's what I would say. Whatever business you're in, think of unique questions that people are going to ask you, but you're going to push it to them instead.
Where did you learn to do this? How did this, I mean, there might be some trial and error. I want to know it all. Like, where did you pick up this knowledge?
100% reps, man. When I just go back and look at when I ran my gym, if I wasn't coaching, I was calling. And that was it. It was those two tasks, because I knew that's the only two ways I'm going to grow my business, is that I'm either going to call and sell somebody, or I'm going to deliver service and retain somebody. And, we grew quick with that system. And so it was just me doing it, because literally the whole system was like, one day I just stopped doing it. And I just said, I need to write this down, and take screenshots and write down all the messages I'm sending and just move it into an SOP so I can teach somebody else. And so that's
basically
this book is the whole 5x2 follow-up systems in here.
All right. So so basically it was on the job training for you.
Exactly.
In other words, you were figuring out, this is working, this isn't, and just kept modifying until you found this process in this system and developed it. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think the best mentors can lead you from memory, not from theory. They're not like, I think you should do this. They're like, here's how I did it. Let me walk you through it.
Exactly. So, all right. So you said there's three phases or 3 steps to this process. So that was one. What's the second and third?
That's your hot leads, 5x2. The second, we were alluding to this earlier, don't forget about all the contacts you already collected. So what we do is depending on how big the database list is. So for easy math, let's say they had 2,000 leads in their database. We're going to carve out 10% of that a day. So 200 of them. And I'm going to send them a mass text. And sometimes it might be a poll like, hey, we're polling our audience to find out what you're interested in. We have this brand new program and we're wondering if you want to beta test it. I just wanted to, you can do standard check-in. I just want to check in. How are things going? Are you at another gym? Do you want to come work with us? So these are the things that we do. And the reason I do that, again, here's the math behind it. If you do 10% a day and your staff works Monday through Friday, they're going to get through the whole list twice a month. And that is like a tolerable amount where you're not going to piss these people off. And so that is the, a less aggressive. When you think 5 by 2, they're getting 10 contacts in a week. Now they're going to get 2 once they're in your old database. That's fine. You're not going to bother anybody and piss them off. But that's what we call the 10% blast system, is to just blast out, whether you do email or text, 10% a day, or even you can do outbound call, but that's that second system.
You know how I can always tell someone who can't sell is when they tell me that, well, I don't want to follow up here because I've already talked to them here and I don't want to overdo it with them. That's someone in their own mind that just sits there and convinces them that they have their own internal problems, thinking they're a high pressure salesperson instead of just communicating it the right way. Someone will always lose more business by not following up enough compared to what they lose by following up and upsetting the one person or the 2 people because they followed up.
Call that shopping with your own wallet. And so many of us shop with our own wallet, and then selling with your own wallet. We all shop with our own wallet. I meant we're selling with our own wallet. So there's things you value that you immediately project on your leads that they must value the same thing. So a few examples.
That's right.
Some people are about convenience. They're like, I want it to my doorstep. I want Amazon. I want the meal prep brought to me. Price is not a question. I want my time back. So if you value convenience, pay attention to your pitch. Find out if you keep saying these things, but the customer never alluded to it. You're like, this is going to save you time. You don't have to worry about this. Is that what they wanted? Again, we know in sales, listen to what they want. Second is price and value. And so people are like, what's the cheapest? Can I get a bargain? Do you got any deals? You guys got a coupon, a Groupon? And so essentially they're just looking for the lowest price. And for most of us, we sell premium products. We're not wanting to find those people. They need to go find a bargain company and work with them. And then the third that's the most common, and this is the people we talk to a lot more, is your premium buyers. And so they're like, I just want the best, brands. I want status, I want the highest quality. I want that. And so that is what they value. So you can see if I value price, but I'm talking to someone that wants, the best in class. If I bring my wallet to the conversation, I'm going to literally push them away. So that's why you can't sell with your own wallet. You have to think about what is their wallet, and I'm going to sell to that. I'm not going to bring my own personal situation to the presentation, right?
Great point. All right, keep going with these steps and phases. Yes. I keep interrupting. I keep breaking your flow.
This is good. This is a good conversation. This is what good podcasts are all about. So the third component is the trial duplication system. So this does come from if you have a service or a product that you think you can, get referrals on the front end. Some you need to kind of deliver service or deliver product and then ask for a referral. But fitness, it's very easy to ask for it on the front end. So I call this the trial duplication system. And all it takes is training your team to ask for it every single time, because it's what I did. So I trained my team to do the same. But basically, hey, Mrs. Jones, you joined our 28-day challenge. Awesome. Got you all registered. Do you know anybody else who could use our help, that could use a coach in their corner, that could use some support and accountability and nutritional guidance? And guess what? When they sign up with you, you're going to be accountability buddies and you're going to stick with it a whole lot better, which is why I'm asking. I want you to have a familiar face here in the gym. Who do you know that needs our help? And so now I've kind of primed her, because I bought her a little time. I got her thinking, who is that person in my life that keeps complaining about their weight? And they've tried X, Y, and Z and it didn't work, but they haven't joined, this program. They haven't worked with a coach. I know. And so she opens up her phone and she gives me name, phone number, and email. And, essentially I do it the right way. I want to do a 3-way text. Hey, so your friend Susan told me you might be interested. No pressure, but we'd love to have you. In fact, you can get in the challenge for half off. And so I'm giving her friend the hookup with a discount, right? And then essentially we're at a 3 out of 10 people will take us up on it. But to me, that's still 3 people that would have never bought, and it's a free lead. It costs no marketing dollars. It just took the time to ask. So asking after a sale, after someone makes a sale, they're most excited they bought it. and they want to
Yep.
tell their friends. They might even go on social media and post about it. So you're catching them at their exact right time. And that's the third component.
I love it. So talk to me a little bit about the difference, how you're defining when you say, focus on serving rather than just selling.
Yeah. So most people in fitness, and this I think could probably go for anybody when they're selling, is
This
that,
is definitely
yeah, they just start clamming up and they get nervous and they're uncomfortable and they don't like it. And this could be business owners, it could be their teams. And so essentially what's happening biologically is you are being selfish in that moment. And so you're saying, I want to make this sale. I want to close this person. I want to earn that commission. I want to sign this person up. And those are all I statements. And that is why you're reacting physically the way you are. You're getting sweaty, you're getting nervous, you're stuttering over your words because you're literally being selfish. So the number one way I found people to have that mental switch is to say, we're here to help them. And I say, do you ever get clammy or nervous when you tell your friend about a Netflix series? Do you ever get clammy and nervous when you tell your friend about a restaurant or a movie? No, because you're naturally wanting to help this person. And so I say, when you're serving somebody, you're doing it because you're saying to them, I want you to have the same experience I did. I want you to go to the restaurant because they took such good care of me and the food was so good. I want you to taste it too. I went and saw this movie and I went on an emotional roller coaster and there's plot twists and I want you to experience that movie. And so now when I'm coming to sell you, for the best salespeople are users of the product or service. And so if I use it and I love it, I am doing the same thing, as I said, with the restaurant and the movie, but now with this product, you got to come to this gym. It's the best gym in town. I love it. The clamminess and the worry and the anxiety goes away because I'm trying to do something of service to you. I'm trying to help you. And so that is the number one way to flip, is to switch it from I statements and internal thoughts, because you're worried about how you feel and if you can close them and if you can hit your KPIs. It needs to be about the customer and how you're going to change their life. And that immediately washes away those feelings. So that's the difference there.
Let me tell you what I love about having you on here as a guest is you're so specific. And because listen, that can be, you're right. You've done probably a ton of podcast shows, or you've hosted, and
Yep.
there's nothing worse than when people speak in fluff terms and generality, just do a bunch of word salads.
Yes. Word salads, I like that.
Or they're glorified YouTube graduates. They watch a couple videos on YouTube. Now they're experts at something. You've lived this. You've gone through it. You've done it. You've got a system. All you're doing is taking processes that worked for you and said, hey, this can be applied and integrated into a variety of industries where sales, and I don't know many where sales is not important, where sales is important and critical to a business's success and growth. And you're introducing it to people this way. And I absolutely love it. I appreciate the specifics you're bringing to our audience. So thank you. Let me do this. Give us a case study of something outside the gym industry where you've taken your process and implement it, and what type of results did they see?
Yeah, so it's funny. It was my landscaper. So we had a whole new landscape done, and the guy, while he's talking to me, his phone's just ringing nonstop. And so I was like, "You need to get them." And no, we're good. And then he would go and give his crew some marching orders, but at the same time, he's on the phone. And I could just see, I was like, okay, he's a perfect person, a test subject. Because, to your point, I wanted to test this outside of fitness just to see if it passes the stress test. So I was like, hey, man, can I do a test? Can I just work, for you for a month for free? I'm going to put one of my staff members that knows this process. And I want to see if A, you get more business, and B, if you get more time freedom, because you look like you're ball and chain to your phone. Like, you need to be on it. And I said, that's a crying shame, because this business is meant to give you freedom, and it looks like you're its slave. And, hey, I've been there, so I'm not judging anybody, but I know that this is one of those tasks that has to be done. But do I believe it needs to be done by the owner? My answer is no. And so essentially what we do, my company is called Gym Reinforcements. We do sales for gym owners. They give us access to their CRM. We call them, we get them sales. So what happened with him is he said, Oh my God, immediately amazing feedback from my wife. She said, it's never been so quiet in the house because I'm used to you just being on the phone, walking around the house. You're fidgety. You can't take a sales call sitting still. And the last couple of weeks, you know, the house has been quiet and we've been watching our shows and we've just been talking, having dinner. So she's like, peace. Oh my God, like this has been amazing, having peace. And then secondly, yes, his calendar was completely booked solid for 60 days. And here's the thing, we didn't even run ads for him. He just needs someone to answer all the calls. He's missing so many calls because he's really good at what he does. He gets a lot of referrals. That's why I called him, because I see his photos on social media and he does beautiful work. He's got so much inbound, he can't keep up with it. And so we actually had to reject some jobs because they were too small. I said, hey man, you're driving over to jobs and they're telling you kind of over the phone what it's going to be. And I could tell it's going to be a low $2,000 job. I was like, you need to start at 7 or 10 and only cherry pick the big ticket jobs because you don't got time anymore for this. Let the new guy that just started his landscaping company get those and throw him some breadcrumbs. But I said, you either got to get a bigger team or you got to just pick the higher paying jobs. And so we went that route. And so, yeah, he worked less jobs because he was moving to a lot of jobs. There were a little bit of money, less jobs, making more, and had more peace in his home. So that was really rewarding to do that.
He should set up a strategic alliance with one of those up and coming or newer landscaping companies. And if he's got overflow, you know, sub that out to those guys and go from there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I love it. All right. So how do you help, or where can businesses, what would you tell people to look? Where would you tell them to look first in terms of finding or discovering some missed opportunities?
Yeah,
Especially,
I would say,
and I'm specific. Let's keep it specific to like leads they have in there.
Yeah. I would say the easiest by far is the best place to find new business is old business. So call your past customers. So, you know, if he had somebody do a landscaping job, they highly unlikely they need more, but they could take pictures and send it to their friends and send you a referral. Maybe they do decide they want to, you know, do some changes to it after it's finished. So call all your old customers. They're the easiest people. They know you, they like you, they trust you. They're willing to part ways with money. They know you're going to deliver the goods. So if you need money ASAP, like I call those like quick cash campaigns. Like we got hit with an unexpected tax bill, or, you know, your truck broke down, you need to replace it. Call your old customers, make them an amazing offer, and just hustle and get out there and make it happen. But yeah, it's going to always be hitting the phones and having relationships and phone calls, meaningful conversations. That's where the money will be found. You can't just put a post up on social media and watch it rain.
I love that you brought up previous clients, because that'll never fail. That will never fail. You know, back in the day, our agency, back when it was only direct mail and email, before we did the digital pivot, I mean, we used to just preach that and try to educate clients nonstop. We have to do this, here's this, here is, and we had good analytic team that could identify different segments of their you know, their previous clients, and then try to determine what products or services would be the best fit for them, right? And align those things. But I mean, they always, that type of process, and that's just from the marketing side. So it doesn't require some sophisticated thing. Like you're saying, you can reach out to people. I mean, it can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be, but it always works.
Yep, 100%. And so again, when you get a little bit ahead in business and you kind of get to that complacent mode where you're like your needs are met, your bills are covered, that's where I see people take their foot off the gas pedal, because they had something to drive for. They had a gap that was not met. And then once it's met and you're stabilized, immediately I see people kind of plug out. And so I'm like, hey, you were on the trend up, double down. You know, like this is the time to put all your eggs in this basket and go hard and grow it more. So,
well, not only that, but businesses get bored of doing things. And it's so funny because as business leaders, we tend to get bored or want to make switches well before the marketplace decides it's done with something. You know, you don't
because
switch
we're
just
bored.
for the sake of,
not just the market's bored. We're bored and we're trying to stay engaged. But it's like, you're right. Business is boring. So lock in that it's 10 years. I'm going to do things this way. If it's working, I'm not saying, you know, not have a working program, but business is boring. Stick with it. That's a good message to send the audience. You know, right between the eyes with.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some team problems. And I know you've helped a lot of businesses with this as well. In your experience, like what is some of what's the root cause for a lot of team issues or team problems? And in your opinion, why is it so critical to address them?
I mean, this is my belief. No one has to, take this on. But after many team problems and issues, this was always the symptom or the cause of it. And so the word is communication. And so I think divorces happen because of communication. I think wars happen with countries because they can't communicate. I think all the fighting you see on social media is because it's very easy to be a keyboard warrior, but you get someone face to face and now they say, oh, they're not such a bad guy. And I could hear your tone and I could see your body language, but it's easy to just see someone's name and write fiercely something mean. And I think the highest amount of errors and attitude and problems come up from written communication. If I could be even more specific, I think we immediately, if we need to defuse a bomb, if you have an upset customer, you see two team members have a tiff, what's the first thing that, good business leaders know to do? I got to get these guys together in a room. I got to make a phone call. I got to get them on Zoom. It's never, I'm going to text them. I'm never going to get us on a 3-way email and squash this. And so that is your EQ, your emotional intelligence telling you we need FaceTime, we need connection, we need to, squash this beef. And that is what I think is the root cause of team problems.
Gosh, if I had a nickel for every time I've sent a text out where someone on the other end got upset by it, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, I didn't mean that. Why are they taking it the wrong way? And of course, it's so easy to misunderstand the tone of an email or no matter how you type it, it doesn't matter. And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's just, we all have different definitions for words. We have different, so it's without being able to talk to it where they can hear the tone of your voice or the chuckle or this or that. Gosh, so many things can be taken wrong. Yeah, good point.
There's a great exercise I like to highlight with this is that there's a famous sentence, I didn't say she was beautiful. And so what you do is you emphasize each word and hear that it has 6 different versions. So I didn't say she was beautiful. 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 And so one sentence has literally 6 different versions. And so if, any husband were to text that to his wife, I mean, that's playing Russian roulette, which word she's going to pick and emphasize, right? Versus what we said. I didn't say this lady was beautiful. I said, you're beautiful, honey. And then she's reading as like, I didn't say she was beautiful as in my wife, so she takes it, like I'm talking about her. So that's why
I wrote that down. I know this is recorded, but I'm going to take it and work with team members immediately after this interview. I like it.
And literally take any text and play that game. Whoever texts you next, emphasize every word in the text and realize how many versions. And like you said, we all have our own filters, our own upbringing, our own beliefs. So different words pop out at us. And sometimes we don't even write them in caps, but the person reads them in caps. And so that's why, again, we need to look as leaders. Where's my team miscommunicating? Maybe they're not speaking clearly. Maybe they didn't understand what I said. Like you said, I text something and they didn't get it. Maybe they're not talking, and that's where the error. I need to get them together. So you are the master, like communication bridge.
So that would be like, say, the most obvious, clear tip that you could give to kind of foster better communications, right? Get them in the same room or get them on the phone where they can hear it. But what are 2 or 3 other ways that you would advise someone to improve communications, with their teams, specifically is sales related?
Yeah. I think number 1, smaller groups do better. Whenever honestly, I was being lazy. I was like, okay, I need to tell the whole team something. So let's get all 15 for this gym together and me. And that way everyone can hear what I have to say. But when you're talking about one department, the other departments tune out. They don't, like, marketing doesn't care what sales and fulfillment have to say. And the coaches don't have to, rat's ass what the marketing team's working on. So what I had to learn was that, if I want to have an hour of a meeting, I need to rotate departments in like 15-hour blocks and just give them my focused attention. Lo and behold, everybody's more open. Everyone's talking. The other thing is when there's more people in a meeting, people zip their lips because they're uncomfortable. I don't know these people. So safety and trust is important in a team meeting. If I don't feel safe, I'm just not going to speak up, and then now I'm going to bottle things up and I'm going to be a bomb waiting to go off. So I'd say get your meetings. They say, this is from Cameron Harold, who's one of my favorite business mentors. He says, if you can't feed everybody in a meeting with one pizza, there's too many people in the meeting. So again, I don't want to give like a hard number, like this is the number, but for me, I do it as departments. And so that helps me because now the focus is like, okay, marketing, all we're focusing on is lead gen, what's working, what's not working. Let's problem solve. And I'm gonna go to the next department. So yeah, that would be another tip is like get smaller meetings and more focused agendas for your meetings.
So, all right. So let's say, I'm coming to you, I'm saying, all right, Dustin, I want to hire this. I like this system. I believe in it. I don't have a good system. It's kind of all over the place. I've got a good friend, David Spizak. He's got a good podcast as well. You should follow. Try to get on his show, by the way. He does an outstanding job. Very sharp businessman. But he's got a great quote that he uses and a phrase. And he says, let's say you got 30 salespeople, right? Or whatever's on your team. He goes, if you don't have a process, you have 30 processes. And you can't manage 30 of them.
That's good.
Right?
That's good. So, doing their own version of it, right?
That's exactly right. And so I like to quote him a lot because he's extremely successful, very sharp, and deals in real world solutions. And so, having said that, so my business is, let's just say it's got no real process. It's got one, but not really. I want to come to you. But just like anything, right, that you bring on, any type of change, what are some of the challenges or obstacles that you feel like businesses face when they try to adopt your strategy? So you go in and new client, what are some of the early obstacles or challenges they face? And then how can they overcome them?
Yeah. So just to kind of touch on like the building processes and SOPs, I don't believe unless you're going to franchise that you need to SOP every single process in your business. Cause I used to think that and it overwhelmed me. And I thought I'm going to have to take like a week and go get a hotel and just become a system builder. And then I would also be discouraged at the thought that like in a year, they're all going to change. And who the hell's going to go and change them? Yeah. Me. And oh my God, like, I don't want to do this. So what do? Because you hear you need SOPs and then you think about how many SOPs that you have in your business and it's just crippling. So here's the freeing thought that I want to pass on to everybody. You only need to document the 20% of your processes that create 80% of the results. And so if you have 100 things that you got to do, and now oh, I only got to document our core 20, well, that's doable. And now I can just give the department lead in each area, hey, you own these 5 marketing processes, you own these 5 sales processes. And when we refresh them, it's on you to go in and update them once a quarter. And now it's not super, crazy and unmanageable. And like people are like, oh, I could do that. That's very doable. So that framework worked for me. And hopefully that's valuable to the listeners as well.
Why do we always forget the 80-20 rule?
Yes.
Business leaders always forget the 80-20 rule. It is so funny you talk about it. Listen, updating the processes, keeping them current and relevant. That's more time. I feel like that's the worst part of it.
It's exhausting.
That's worse than creating them.
And that, speaking to our profile as business leaders, we're very like results driven, big ideas, big vision, big relationships. And you pull us down into the weeds and the details and we get drained. It is our kryptonite. We are Superman when we're dreaming and we are dying when we're doing the details. And so that's why you need to know your strengths as a business leader and have team members that take away those things, because at the end of the day, we need to protect your energy. Like if you're our all-star quarterback, we need your energy always pepped up because everybody's plugging into you. You are the one that's fueling this engine. And so what's interesting that I learned that it took me a while is what drains my energy, as absurd as it sounds, give somebody else energy. Like there is those operational admin minded people that everything sounds like torture to me gives them joy and they wake up in the morning and they love it. And that was a mind blowing experience for me when I had to learn to delegate. Like, oh my God, you tell me someone loves this, the stuff that I hate, it's true. So everybody, take that and realize, hey, it's okay to hire out your weaknesses so we can protect you and your energy, because we need that for the long haul.
Yeah. So, all right. So what would be one key takeaway, one piece of advice you'd give our audience when it comes to improving their sales or their team performance, or both?
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, we were mentioning like, how could we, build it into another industry? If there was another industry that needed help, what it takes is these frameworks we share, that Fortune follow-up system, but then customizing it to your industry. If you do real estate, if you do lawn care, if you're a hair salon, there are things that you have to, take these frameworks and then now plug in the details. And so my belief is that the best person to do it is the person in the company that has done the most reps. They have the most experience, the most face time with customers. So if that's the owner, then the owner has to go in. But the beauty is this is a one-time build, and now it's built forever. And we can do some minor tweaks, but your team can take it from there. But you just got to build it once and know that you're going to get a huge stress off your plate. But what it comes down to is first the actual text scripts and like the journey that the lead will go through. And then the second part is your software stack. Every industry uses a different tools and software. Yep. So it's like, if you just take this very simple system, plug in your scripts that are industry specific and your software it's industry specific, you have your version of the Fortune follow-up system. So yeah, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Simple gets done. That's another guest I'm quoting, Michael Porro, a frequent tuner in of the show as well, but another very successful business leader and executive. He has a great ability to take something complex and simplify it, regardless if it's the process to simplify it or just the way he articulates it, right?
Yes.
Sometimes as business leaders, when we want to get a marketing message out there, I can tell you, like, from an agency standpoint, we're great at marketing others, but marketing ourselves is a nightmare. You get into the weeds, you want to be perfect. It's horrible. But he has a way as a dealer. And one of the reasons we brought him on the show about a year or two ago, I just watched one of his commercials and I thought, wow, what a clear, compelling message. And so I wanted to get that out there because that's so important. And that goes right back to your comment about simple. So, all right. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add to this show before we wrap it up?
No, I think the only thing that I would throw out there is like, hey, if you guys enjoyed it, I have a lot of my best tips in this book. It drops this Friday on Amazon, Reinforce Your Gym. Just search that title or my name, Dustin Bogle. You'll see it there. Kindle, it's 99 cents. And so, essentially, I would love your support. And then I'd love your feedback on what you liked about it. And if you have any follow-up questions that maybe you're thinking as you're listening to this, send me a DM on Facebook and Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Just search my name, Dustin Bogle, and I'll come right up.
Now, Dustin, are they going to be able to get to a link of that book? Because we got your web address scrolling here at the bottom, gymreinforcements.com. Are they going to be able to get there from that?
Yeah. I will have it. I'll send it to you. And then, essentially, if you want to put it up on this post, and then we can go from there. But that is pretty much it.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Move, Crush, Count, where we dove into the Fortune follow-up system and team dynamics with sales expert Dustin Bogle. Dustin, I thought you shared some invaluable insights, especially when it comes to boosting sales. Like I mentioned earlier, the specifics were off the charts. I loved it. But we also touched on it was awesome, improving some team performance. You talked a lot about service. And if we really think about it, forget servicing the client for a second in terms of the way we traditionally think. Professional follow-up and the process that you have, it's an indirect way of servicing the client, because there's nothing worse than when I reach out to a business. And you gave an example in the interview early on where a week later you might get responded to, or that's bad service. It may not have anything to do with the service or the product you provide, but it's a horrible client experience. So hopefully people are paying close attention to that, because the service-based approach goes beyond their traditional thinking as well. And I think your system is an element of it. So I hope this episode provided our audience, and I know it did, with actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own business so you can elevate your sales process, your team collaboration. I also want to thank you, Dustin, for joining us today, sharing your expertise with the MCC community. You can learn more about Dustin and his work, and he mentioned it as well. Follow him on all his social networks, but you can also visit gymreinforcements.com. All right, so make sure you follow Dustin there. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, join our Facebook group. Dustin, join our Facebook group, the Move Crush Count group. There'll be some people in there every now and then comment, and feel free to share. It would be a good opportunity to share when your book drops. You can go in there and share the link to your book. We'd appreciate that. I think if I can say anything, if your book is as specific about what you just mentioned and brought up throughout this episode, then that's a must read for any business owner or any sales leader. And quite honestly, even salesperson. Not every salesperson has the right management or leaders in place that put these type of processes in place. And they shouldn't be a victim to that. You know, if you're working for a company that doesn't have the right processes or doesn't have a process, you're allowed to create a great one for yourself and control your own destiny if you're in sales. So, you know, your book doesn't apply just to business owners, in my mind. Anybody in sales, I would assume.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
So, also make sure you stream, follow us when we stream live, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. So that way you can stay connected with our community. I really appreciate it if you guys could review us, rate us. The whole show is organic, and so that helps our growth a ton. Share this episode or other episodes with your peers, your colleagues, your friends, your family. And finally, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. Do me a favor. I want you to visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can see how their innovative approach will help you move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Move, Crush, Count.